Dear friends, you are welcomed by the Mare Internum community, a professional association of Russian-speaking immigrant psychologists. Today, we invite you on a journey through the inner sea of one of the most enigmatic artists of the 20th century, Marka Rotko. On the 25th of September 1903, in Dvinsk, on the outskirts of the Russian Empire, a boy named Marcus Yakovlevich Rotkovich was born. He grew up in a Jewish family, surrounded by Russian literature, conversations about culture, and books by Dostoevsky and Chekhov. At home they spoke two languages, Russian and Yiddish. His father, Yakov Rotkovich, was a pharmacist who sought to give his 4 children the best possible education. Marcus was the youngest child in the family. His father adhered to Marxist views and probably introduced the children to questions of politics and economics. Perhaps these early conversations formed in Marcus a complex attitude toward wealth and big capital. Later, his paintings would sell for enormous sums of money. But the artist himself would always feel conflicted toward the world of great fortunes. Marcus's later childhood passed in constant tension. The family lived in fear of the elder sons being drafted into the Tsar's army, and amid growing anti-Semitic sentiment. When Marcus turned 10, the family decided to emigrate to the United States. The loss of home, familiar surroundings, and friends could not help but leave a deep mark on the child's soul. But soon another tragedy struck. His father died. In essence, it was a double loss. A child loses not only a beloved person, he loses an entire world. Language, streets, smells, the feeling of home, and at the same time the father figure that gave a sense of stability. After the father's death, the family had to struggle to survive. Little Marcus sold newspapers, delivered food, and worked almost like an adult. Despite this, he studied well and had the opportunity to enter Yale University. Seemingly, this was the embodiment of the American dream. But it was there that Marcus felt especially alien. A poor immigrant among wealthy students, a Jewish youth among representatives of a privileged world. From a psychoanalytic point of view, it is in adolescence that questions sound especially acute. Who am I? Where is my place? It seems that for Rothko these questions never received a final answer. At the age of 20, he found himself in New York, almost without money. He cleaned toilets, took any odd job, and had no idea who he would become. One day, walking the gray streets of New York, he accidentally entered a drawing class. Later he recalled that day almost as a revelation. Sometimes life changes thanks to one accidentally opened door. From that moment, art became for Marcus, and from 1939 on, for Marka Rotko, something much greater than a profession. He needed an inner foundation. Psychoanalyst Wilfred Bion wrote that the psyche tries to process raw emotional experiences and transform them into something meaningful. But for that, it needs a container. Perhaps painting became such a container for Rothko, a place where one could bear solitude, longing, fear, loss, and not collapse. In the 1930s, Rothko painted people, subway passengers, urban scenes. If you look closely at these paintings, you can notice one peculiarity. People are next to each other, but each remains incredibly lonely, as if enclosed in their own inner room. Then the Second World War began. The world was experiencing a catastrophe. It was at that time that Rothko increasingly turned to mythology. In his paintings appeared Oedipus, Tiresias, heroes of ancient Greek tragedies. Why? According to Freud, myth is the dream of civilization. When reality becomes too painful, culture begins to speak the language of symbols. Perhaps that is what was happening with Rothko in the 1940s. Confronted with war, destruction, and mass death, he turned to myth as a language capable of containing what cannot be expressed in ordinary words. He speaks not only about himself, he speaks about what all people experience, about fear of death, about fate, about guilt, about loss. Later even figures disappeared. Only color remained. Light, rectangles, and an incredibly complex painting technique. Many still ask, why do Rothko's paintings evoke such strong emotions? Perhaps because before us lies the human experience in its purest form. From a psychoanalytic perspective, it resembles a movement toward the earliest layers of the psyche, to where there is not yet language, no history, no explanations. Perhaps that is why his paintings affect viewers so deeply. In 1970, Mark Rothko took his own life, and here one of the hardest questions arises. Can creativity save a person? If art helped him to process suffering, why could it not save him? He was 66 years old. By that time, many things coincided. Severe depression, heart disease, physical exhaustion, breakdown of marriage, loneliness, conflicts. We often imagine creativity as medicine. Sometimes it truly helps to symbolically transform trauma. But sometimes a person remains in constant contact with what they are trying to transform. For decades, Rothko gazed into themes of tragedy, emptiness, death, and loneliness. He created for others a space where one could encounter one's feelings. But perhaps one day, the volume of inner pain became greater than the usual means of processing it could bear. We don't know, and we will probably never know. But we know something else. Rothko's paintings create a special space of inner silence. A space where feelings that usually find no place in everyday life can come alive. Franz Kafka once said, "A book must be an axe for the frozen sea within us." Perhaps this is one of the essential functions of art, to create a space where the most complex and frightening experiences can be lived, understood, and symbolized, not repressed or acted out in reality. Art helps the frozen sea of our inner experience gradually to thaw and turn into a living stream of feelings, thoughts, and meanings. Therefore, looking at Rothko's canvases, we can touch something genuine within ourselves, something that cannot be fully expressed in words. But it is exactly this that makes us human.